Okay, so this is a first ride, testing out my new gear. Actually, second ride. I tested it out last night to test the mic. We are on the 2018 Z900RS, and we're going for our first day ride with full live gear. I've got two cameras rolling, one for my headshot, one for my POV. I've got two mics, one in my helmet and then one on my handlebar to get some of the engine noise. So hopefully we have a lot to work with our post edit. And we're going to be listening for wind noise today. We're going to be listening for wind noise and hopefully getting some good views. I plan on going to Mount Bonnell. Right now, we're going to Mount Bonnell, and then hopefully, if we have enough battery life in our cameras, we'll also be going to City Park Road out toward Turkey Creek Trail. That's the plan. So, as a first ride, I also kind of told myself I would get used to the idea of telling stories while I'm writing. So I figured, why not my first story be about how I got back into writing? And I'm going to tell the long version since we have time. It is a little bit of a long story. So I was actually looking for a bike about a year and a half ago, just kind of on my own, dreaming, realizing, hey Chris, you know, you're making a little bit more money now, you don't really have anybody around to tell you not to do something you want to do, so, you know, why don't you, look around at bikes. So I went down to the Indian store, which actually closed down, they're not open anymore. Went down to the Indian store to go look at some bikes, and of course it absolutely got my engine revving again. Thinking about the old days riding with my brother, so that's kind of the backstory too. Me and my brother used to ride motorcycles like a couple of douchebags down in McAllen in our late 20s. He was probably mid-20s. I think I was I was probably 28, 29 by then. And we just loved riding. We rode practically everywhere. I rode to work, we'd ride to church, and we had a fun time. Of course, back then they didn't really have all the technology you have now, where you can actually talk to each other while you're riding. And so I just started thinking about that, but then I ended up finding somebody and going into a relationship, and she told me that, well, we're not going to continue dating if you get a motorcycle. So I was like, okay, well, it was really just a thought at the time, so it didn't really bother me too much. I was, pretty into the relationship at the time. Well, that relationship ended pretty quickly after, about 8 months. And in the time of, like anybody, thinking, okay, well, you're getting over a relationship, something in your life kind of needs to change. And, well, I was already kind of into these motorcycle racing games. One called On the Edge, Isle of Man, which is a fantastic game. Oh my god. I started playing that almost like a consolation while I was in that relationship, and man, it just brought me alive. And got my brother into it as well, so he and I started playing. We didn't play together because we didn't really have a dual mode like that, but he told me that, well, he already bought a motorcycle, and I was like, well, shoot, you know, he's riding, why the hell aren't I riding? And so shortly after the relationship ended, I started looking into getting my motorcycle license for once. And that's another thing is, you know, even while I was riding in my earlier days, I never actually got my license. I took the exam, failed it, never took it again. Go figure. And so I took that, you know, took the course, had fun with the course, you know, as one does, and like anyone does, you immediately start dreaming of getting your first bike. So almost, I think it was just a couple of weeks after I finished my motorcycle course, I went out and found a bike, you know, pretty quickly. It may have been a few weeks, but I got very lucky, found a bike for sale, found this Z900 RS, and fell in love with the bike right away. More bike than I needed, but fell in love with it. Loved the lines, loved the styling, and yeah, so that's how I set my foot back into riding. Now, about the Z900 RS and my experience getting into riding again, I would say that the Z900 was probably a poor choice, simply because my neck muscles were not prepared for the twitchy throttle problem of this bike. And when you're wearing a helmet again for the first time, that weight on your head and it getting thrown around with this throttle issue, I definitely experienced some really bad neck issues as a result. And I was already having back issues, and it was definitely a hindrance for, oh my gosh, probably a couple of months, you know, where I was walking around with a stiff neck, but I kept the faith in my body, and my body would adjust. Luckily, eventually it did. So neck problems went away. I started getting much more into exploring Austin. So one of my favorite places to go right now, and gosh man, it is humid today. I came across Mount Linnell just a few weeks ago. Rode that for the first time 3 weeks ago, and it's fun. I mean, it's very, very short. It's a very short trip through some really hilly neighborhoods. But that's kind of the excitement, is, you know, all the hills and exploring, finding places you don't know. Getting back to my Z900 RS, another thing I like about this bike, other than the lines, the look, the style, you know, another thing I like about this bike is how easy it is to work on. This is a very easy bike to work on. Had to work on it for the first time, first doing an oil change, which brought back memories of working on my old bike. And, you know, messed it up. I mean, of course, you know, took longer than it needed to, because I'm figuring it out, you know, kind of fiddling with it, getting oil all over the place, which is part of the fun. The first time you work on your bike, it's gonna be a mess. You're not used to what tool for what, and you know where you need to have the oil pan. You don't know how the oil's gonna spill out. So, yeah, it takes a lot longer than it needs to, but that's part of the fun at the same time. So we're coming up on 38th Street right now. This is going to take us over to Mount Bonnell. This is the best way I know to get here. Okay. Yeah, my eyes are starting to fog up a little bit. I'll probably cut this part out. Oh, wet. What do I care? So anyway, yeah, my experience of getting back into writing. Man, I forgot how nice it is to meet other writers. Man, you meet people at the coffee shop and you trade stories. It's kind of like hunting a little bit. You bump into other hunters and you tell stories. Where did you kill your last one? How big was it? It's very much the same thing. I don't know if it's something just innate, especially with men, where we have a good time and we just want to tell other guys where we had a good time, what our bike is like, and yeah. So I meet people at the coffee shop. Right now I have a couple of friends who also ride at the yoga studio I go to. I'm a regular yogi, and it's you meet people. You don't always have a reason to strike up a conversation at yoga, but when you ride a bike and you have that in common, boy, does that really strike up a conversation. I will say, man, that's something I really like about riding. Is it creates a connection with other riders, two like-minded people, kind of like going to yoga. People all there do the same thing together for the same reason, a lot of the same reasons. And when it comes to riding, you're just meeting somebody who you may not have a whole lot in common with, but you have that, and you do it for the same reason, which creates a lot of commonality in itself. Definitely need to create some pauses in my storytelling, because I don't want this to be an hour-long video. I only want it to be about 30 minutes. I don't think people are going to want to listen for this long. Okay. There's Camp Mabry, so I know I'm going the right way. I have taken a wrong turn before. Not so bad on a car, but it's a little bit trickier on a motorcycle when you have to do a U-turn. Alright. And I'm in the turn lane. Okay, I don't think anyone cares. Now, I will say Mount Bonnell is actually somewhat dangerous, because if you've never been there before and you're not expecting the major features like the dips and the hairpins, it can be dangerous. And one thing that I do know about it is that the first time I heard about it was a couple of years ago, when a football player from UT took his motorcycle down Mount Bonnell, didn't know what he was getting into, and took a hairpin at high speeds, crashed and died. So I thought to myself, well, guess I have no reason to go to Mountain now. Of course, I wasn't even riding back then, but I knew for sure I had no reason to go there. Boy, was I wrong. And I'll hopefully be able to show you. I don't have my map on right now, so I'm just going to be taking it nice and easy. Probably already going a little bit faster than I should be, so slowing it down. But this is a place where people come to catch some really amazing views of Austin. If you take the trail up to the top of the hill, it's really incredible view of Lake Austin and surrounding neighborhoods, the downtown. Alright, so we're going down a pretty steep hill here. I don't know if you can tell from the camera angles, but it is very steep, and it's going to get even steeper here in a little bit. But this is nice and short, not a big deal. Just got to be careful. It might look fast in the video, I don't know, but I'm actually taking this very slow. Well, I'm in fourth gear, and I don't actually know how fast my speed is because my camera's blocking my speedometer, but oh well, I feel safe. I have to say, it's pretty neat to be talking while I'm riding. I mean, I love talking while I'm, with my brother. We'll be on the phone together, or he'll be riding with me. I love that. I don't mind this as much as I thought I would. Actually, providing narration while I'm driving. This is kind of neat. Feels a little bit like talking to yourself, but not as bad as I thought it would. This is probably where that guy died right here. Probably, I can't say for sure. It's shifting down to second gear. Clear going. Got another rider in front of us. Beautiful. They can do it, so can I. That was fun. Guy's got a nice Ducati. I'd be lying if I knew what it was. I mean, lying if I said I knew what it was. Okay, now we're on 2222. Gonna have my blinker on. This is a pretty simple ride. Nice twisties. You can probably hear a little bit of my helmet noise right now. I don't know if it's really worth talking, but a friend of mine, actually, the one friend I made in yoga, I met him, or started talking to him really, after he told me he had gotten into an accident, and it was actually here on 2222. I'm like, what? You got into an accident on 2222? And he admitted, he was like, he was being a dumbass. He was going way faster than he should. Wasn't watching his speed. He thought he was gonna take the turn, no problem, and he ended up running out a curb and went off into the grass. And he said he went off into a rail, but I don't see a rail here. first started riding, again, I actually had trouble on 2222. I didn't have the lean confidence. That's something we can talk about, is lean confidence. Maybe we can save it for another story, but I can talk about it now too. Well, I gotta shut up because this Ducati is gonna pull up next to me. City Park Road. Fun ride. Although I haven't actually come across any other riders here. I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't, but might cut this whole thing out, actually. Cut this into 2 videos. That might be the thing to do. So this is City Park Road. This goes out to Turkey Creek Trail. And like I said before, I discovered this a couple weeks ago from Google Earth. And I first came across actually about a year and a half ago when I was on a date, and I remember coming out here for the first time thinking, man, these are some really good twisties, some good elevation changes like this right here. Like all these people. Pretty sure that guy let me pass. And if we get stuck behind this Subaru, it's okay. One thing I have learned is the value of patience when you're on a motorcycle. Oh my gosh. I have had a couple of close calls because I got impatient, I wanted to pass. And all I can say is, on a road like this, where you have nothing but blind turns the entire way and hills, you don't know what's over the hill, you don't know what's around the turn, and it feels like 9 times out of 10 where I want to pass somebody and think to myself, just be patient. Sure enough, another car comes around the bend. And, okay. Alright, what are you doing? I mean, I was actually totally cool with that, but I feel like maybe they were trying to let me pass. And I had a little bit of space between me and the corner where I knew I had some safety area, so don't judge me. What do you think? Was that a safe pass? Tell me in the comments. Let's do this YouTube thing.